5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It took 5 years to get a 4-year degree from 3 different colleges to accumulate $100,000 in student loan debt. That guy is living the American dream right there. Hey guys, my name is Mike. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about all things related to saving money. And on today's topic, I'm going to be talking about how I was able to pay off $30,000 of my student loans within 3 months. I'm going to be starting this video off by giving you guys a little more context of my background and the overall student loan debt that I have. After that, I'm going to throw up my physical student loan account on the screen so you guys can see some concrete numbers. And then we can go line by line on my payment history. That way I can show you where these different streams of income came from. So if you're looking for a little inspiration and are eager to pay off your student loans as quickly as possible,
yes, sir,
then make sure to keep watching because this video is gonna be for you. Alright, just to give you guys a high-level overview of my background, I graduated with my bachelor's in 2013, then I joined the Navy, and then after the Navy, I went to community college, and then I went to grad school. And if you're wondering why my schooling is kind of out of order, going from community college and then to grad school, it's because during my bachelor's, I got a really low GPA. I ended up getting a 2.6, and so I had a hard time getting accepted into grad school. So one of the things that I did is I actually went to community college first just so I could take a few classes to boost my GPA, and that really helped me get accepted later on into graduate school. Yay! Alright, so now that we have all that boring stuff out of the way, let's talk a little about my background and some of my actual student loans. And for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to be discussing my undergrad student loans, as all the schooling that I received after the Navy was completely paid for. Shout out to all the taxpayers out there. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you. Alright, so as I stated in the intro of this video, I went to 3 different colleges for my undergrad. I went to Valley Forge, SUNY Brockport, and the Ohio State University. And so for my freshman year of college, I went to Valley Forge, which is a military boarding school that's located
right outside of Philly.
On a side note, let me know down in the comment section below what your favorite thing from Wawa is. And if you've never heard of Wawa before, then you are legit missing out and you are not living your life correctly. But anyways, Valley Forge is a private school and it is definitely one of the most expensive universities that I've been to. I believe my parents ended up taking out the Parent Plus loan to help pay for my first year of college here. These are federal student loans that are taken out in my parents' name, and I can use that money to help pay for any educational expenses that are not covered by financial aid. So technically, my parents are the borrowers, and they are the ones that are required to pay this money back.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
But you know, morally, that would not be right, so I'm including these student loans as debt that I plan on paying back. And fast forward to my sophomore year of college, I went to an in-state school in New York called SUNY Brockport, which is a state-funded university. This is where I was introduced to garbage plates, which is where they put a bunch of different meats, sauces, and fries all onto one plate. It's really good at 2 in the morning.
Yum, 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 yum.
But anyways, I'm pretty sure that my tuition was free at Brockport just because my family met the low income threshold.
No guac, baby.
Moving on to the school that I ultimately graduated from, the Ohio State University.
Yee yee.
You know, I'm kind of a big deal. This is where I ended up doing my junior, senior, and super senior years at.
Wow.
And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, the Navy not only paid for all my grad school, but they also paid for 1 year at Ohio State. So once again,
Shout out to all the taxpayers out there.
so that leaves me with only having to pay for 2 years of school at Ohio State. So to pay for these 2 years, I ended up taking out federal loans in my name. And I don't remember what portion of my loans went to what school, but in total, between my first college and my last college, I ended up taking out about $36,000 in Parent Plus loans and about $66,000 in other federal loans. That totals to about $102,000 in overall student loan debt for a degree that literally everyone on this planet has. I think if I could have done it all over again, I probably would have started at community college first and then transferred over to an in-state school. I think it's definitely realistic to get a bachelor's degree for under $20,000. You can just get a job and work your way through school. That way when you graduate, you'll be debt free and you're not going to be in the hole for $100,000 like I was. But you know, you live and you learn. So let's just move on to the next portion of the video where I go over my different streams of income and how I was able to pay off about $30,000 of my student loan debt within 3 months. So I'm going to start by throwing up my payment history in the screen, and then we can analyze my Parent Plus loans.
Sweet.
Remember that these are the loans that are in my parents' name, not in my name. So from my understanding, I am not legally required to pay off these loans, but I would like to say that I do have some sort of moral compass. So I try to make a huge effort to pay off my parents' loans first before I actually started attacking the debt that was in my name. And here's a screenshot of my payment history. Remember that my original loan amount was around $36,000. And you'll see here that now it's down to about $11,000. So the reason that you see my balance on my loans decreasing is because I've been making payments on this account for years now. And in this video, I'm only going to be showing you my payment history for the last 12 months. Remember that the title of this video is going to be something like how I paid off $30,000 of my student loans within 3 months. So really, the only payment that counts here is the payment that was made in August. The remaining balance of that $30,000, I'll show you here shortly on my other account. And just to give you guys a little inspiration, these $500 payments that you see here, these are all income streams from my internship that I had while I was going to school in Boston.
Nice.
I did an accounting internship where I pretty much just filed paperwork all day, and it was extremely boring and it paid minimum wage. But I treated it as if it was an unpaid internship, and I put 100% of every paycheck towards my student loans. And so hopefully for everyone watching, you can find some sort of side hustle, whether that be walking dogs the weekends, or maybe you can do something like me where you wash dishes for a restaurant. Whatever your side hustle is, learn to live off of one stream of income and then use your side hustle money to help pay down some of your loans. And that brings us to my August payment of about $9,000. Now I know not everyone's going to be able to relate to this, but about 2 years ago, I started investing into 2 mutual funds. Where I set up automatic investing each month. The mutual funds eventually grew to about $18,000 in total. And in case you were wondering what the returns were on these mutual funds, over a 2-year time period, one of the mutual funds had a return of 11.82%, and then the other mutual fund had a return of 15.49%.
Wowee.
I know this is a debated topic on whether or not you should use your savings to help pay off debt, but I really just wanted the peace of mind knowing that soon I'd be debt free. So I decided to liquidate my mutual funds.
What?
To completely pay off my Parent Plus loans. And now I no longer owe my parents anything, as I've completely repaid the loans that they originally took out for me to go to school. And that's a great place to transition to talk about the student loans that are in my name. I borrowed about $66,000 in federal student loans. And when I pull my account up here, you'll notice that my balance is listed at around $26,000. So the reason that you don't see the original $66,000 amount is because I've been making payments in this account since around 2013. And as of the end of August of 2020, I only have about $26,000 remaining on my loans.
Whoa.
And the reason that I'm showing you guys these specific dates is because this is the 3-month time period where I moved in with my parents and I made the decision to attack my debt with every single dollar that I made. And before I go through my payment history on this account, I really just want to encourage you all to reevaluate your living situation. If living with your parents is not an option, then consider finding a cheaper apartment with more roommates. And as an example, if you're currently living in an apartment with 1 roommate, then on your next lease, try to find a new place that's looking for 3 to 4 roommates. Yeah, living with extra people is super annoying.
Wow.
But if you're serious about paying off your student loans as quickly as possible, then these are the sacrifices that you need to make today so you can be debt-free later on in the future. So just to revisit my payment history, I ended up color coding all of my payments and where these different streams of income came from. So let's start off with yellow. This payment was a portion of the mutual funds that I talked about earlier that I liquidated. And about half of the money from the mutual funds went towards paying off my Parent Plus loans. And then the remaining amount went towards the loans that are on this account. And so my next income stream is going to come from the GI Bill, which is highlighted in green. And if you want more info about what the GI Bill is, then just do a quick Google search. But essentially, veterans like me get a cost of living allowance just to go to school.
What?
AKA, I get paid to be a student. So once again, thank you for paying your taxes. All right, next up is going to be my virtual internship, which is highlighted in orange. So I used to be a finance intern at a very large logistics company. And the pay for the internship was actually pretty decent. I made about $19 an hour and I worked about 40 hours a week.
Nice.
My goal was to put about 90% of my after-tax pay towards the loans that you see in the screen. My final income stream can be seen here in blue. I was so serious about paying off my debt that I actually picked up a part-time job at a local restaurant where I split my time either washing dishes or helping in the kitchen with food prep.
Mamma mia.
And this is actually a nice change of pace because I get to interact with people in real life as opposed to being stuck behind a computer screen all day.
Aw, man.
The minimum wage pay is not the greatest, but I do try to make a big effort to put every single dollar that I make from this part-time job towards my remaining student loans. And so if you've been following me so far, that leaves me with a balance of about $12,500. And before I go over this number, I just want to recap something real quick. From August to November, I was able to pay off about $23,000 in federal student loans that were in my name. And with the loans that were in my parents' name, I paid about $9,000 during that same time period, which resulted in those loans being paid off in full. So in total, I was able to pay off $32,326 between August and November of the same year. And to try to put this differently, you could make the argument that a majority of that $32,000 amount came from my mutual funds investment. So if I were to exclude these mutual funds from my debt payments, that would mean that on average, I would have paid $4,600 per month towards my student loans. I would say that's pretty good, considering that I'm just an intern and I wash dishes on the weekend. And before I wrap this video up, I just want to say I know that not everyone watching is a veteran and has the luxury of getting paid to go to school. And likewise with living for free with your parents. But I hope my story can inspire you to maybe find a second job or maybe motivate you to find a cheaper apartment. Whatever's going to help you pay off your student loans faster. And I just wanted to address my remaining balance on my student loans. So I currently owe about $12,000. And the only reason that I haven't paid that off yet is because of the recent change in administration for this country. I'm hearing talks about possibly having $10,000 in federal student loans being forgiven. So what do you guys think I should do? Should I pay off my $12,000 amount immediately? Or do you think it's better to wait this thing out and see if a portion of my debt gets forgiven? Let me know down in the comment section below.
And as always, stay frugal, fam.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to join the Frugal family, be sure to hit the subscribe button right above me and check out my other videos, which I'll have listed on this side of the screen.
We'll see you next time.